marvelous mortgage guy.
Nah,
This is James Douglas, who is
not the marvelous whatever. I don't have a pun. for
marvelous
me.
mortgage guy.
Come on, Justin.
I know, I didn't even tell you I was going to do that. We have a great episode today. We're going to talk about school zones and really what you need to know when it comes to buying a home and school zones.
It's very pertinent to a lot of people. School starts in, sorry teachers, 2 weeks.
Yeah, I asked Kristen Nelson yesterday, when does she start back at school? And she said next Monday.
Yeah, hey teachers, you got to go back next week. Sorry.
Yeah, I know, but it's that time of year, and
Don't hate us.
I'm like willing fall, like I'm just willing in it to get cooler.
We can see it on the horizon.
I was like, if I wear a long sleeve shirt today, it'll get colder. Somehow that'll happen.
No, that's not how that works.
That's not okay. Well, either way, but
Yeah.
man, it's good to be with you. You were not here last week. You were out of town.
And you were sick the week before, so
Yeah.
it's been a couple of weeks.
So everybody, this is James Douglas. If you don't remember him, and
Yes. Well, here you go, James Douglas.
well, we want to talk about school zones because it does impact, how people and why people and where people buy houses. And, as I was thinking about this topic that we were going to be discussing, I was reminded, like, by the time I finished ninth grade, I'd been to 7 different schools.
Wow.
7 schools by the end of ninth grade over the course of 3 states. So, school zones matter, right? If, there's some people who don't move their entire childhood, and then there's some who move quite a bit, right?
Yeah.
And so knowing where these school zones are is really important. And let me define school zone for everybody real quick, because this goes out to multiple parishes, but in Ouachita Parish, they refer to the zone being where that homeowner, where the child lives, where they have to attend school if it's public school.
Correct. Yeah. So elementary, middle, junior high, and high school, they would call it a zone. Yes.
Yeah, and I think maybe other places call it districts,
True.
things like that. But we're going to use the term school zone. Just know that that's what we're talking about when we say that. And so when you're thinking about purchasing a house, you always hear location, 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 right?
Yes.
And, a lot of times we're thinking about location, we're thinking about convenience, we're thinking about safety, we're thinking about these, particular things,
Yeah.
what view it gives you, so forth and so on. But when it comes to school zones, location matters because there's a map out there somewhere.
Yeah, and you can literally live across the street from someone that goes to a different school.
Yeah. And so this map and location determine where that house is located and what zone it goes in. So, James, let's start with where can someone find these particular zoning maps?
Yeah, so for us in Ouachita Parish, we have 2 school districts. Those districts are Monroe City and then the parish, Ouachita Parish. And so both of those have great websites, lots of information, opsb.net for the parish, and then mcschools.net for Monroe City schools.
Yeah, and so as I've navigated both of those sites, previously, I haven't moved in 4 or 5 years. One uses just like the street location, like it's not an actual map itself. You have to look up the street, and it tells you what schools, right? That's Monroe
Correct.
City.
Yes, they have a list. Yes,
And then you have Ouachita Parish schools
they have a map.
that actually has a hand-drawn map.
Hand-drawn, colored with a colored pencil map. It is a little more difficult to determine that in the parish. However, it's not undeterminable.
Yeah.
Like, it's still much better than some schools.
You can overlay it on a Google map.
And then outside of Ouachita Parish, a lot of our more rural parishes, I can't say that word, those that are outside Ouachita, it may just be one school for the entire parish, and so you don't have to worry about it as much. You just know where you live in the parish and go to school.
So I'll share a couple of, just a quick personal story. So we built our house off of Norris Lane 2018, actually a little over 4 years ago now. And at the time, it was a Claiborne Elementary School zone.
Correct.
And literally right after we moved in, somebody took a Sharpie or a pen or a pencil, whatever, on that map, and they just did,
Yep. Sure
and
did.
they just, what was a straight line became a curve and just took in my house
Right,
and moved
and
it to
so-
Highland School Zone.
They still went to the same middle school,
Yep.
went to the same high school, but a different elementary school. And I think that was easier for them to do that because they went to the same middle school.
But that leaves me with a question. Who made the decision?
The powers that be.
The powers that be just, so I don't know who, and would love to know who. If you know who, leave us a comment down below.
It would have been the school board.
Right, but was it voted? Was it like, is it because you vote in the school board? That's kind of how you make your vote, and then they make the decision?
Had to, like, we didn't get to vote.
Yeah.
No, the school board made all of those decisions.
Right, but there's all kinds of implications because where you live, where you pay taxes, it affects things, right?
Sure. No, absolutely.
And thankfully, I'll risk this. Highland's a great school, so thankfully, from a property value standpoint, I don't think there was any real effect. But there have been times in history where that would have had an effect, right?
Sure. Unfortunately, or fortunately,
Mhm.
whatever the case is, and there's just some schools that the population are gravitating towards,
Mm-hmm.
and so naturally home values are going to be higher because there's more people desiring that particular area.
Right, absolutely. Yeah.
So-
We've seen the Sterlington School Zone, which was one of the 7 different schools I attended, by the way, A.L. Smith Elementary, which is now just Sterlington Elementary. That school zone has really benefited due to the population growth.
Sure.
I think most people would say, yeah, it's a better school now than it was 25 years ago.
And population growth is why they changed your
Mhm.
school zone around. They were trying to even out some of the numbers. And as for school boards, it's a very difficult thing. They have to worry about how many kids are in classes, and we don't have an unlimited amount of money. Obviously, teachers would say amen to that.
Right.
And so they have to concern themselves about how many kids are going to this school versus this school, and try to even that out a little bit. But how does that affect the housing market is a little more complicated.
Yeah.
And it's, it's something that has to be considered.
Mhm.
If you have kids and they're going to public school, you have to consider it. And so where do you go to get information about schools? You go ask people. I, as a real estate agent, get asked all the time, hey, is this a good school zone? That's a very vague question.
Yeah.
So, Justin, how have you answered that question? I'll tell you how I answered it.
Yeah, well, there's actually been some excellent websites, and again, I haven't been in that side of the world in a long
Right.
time, but that will, say, hey, here's a third party that's generating information based on grades and, whatever else is factored into that, and then it gives you a ranking of the schools, and that would be one way that I've answered it in the past.
Absolutely. And so my answer is always, I don't know what good is to you.
Yeah.
And I don't know what is best for your child. I'm not an educator.
Mm-hmm.
I grew up in an educator's home. My mom's retired from the parish. So I know what goes on in that from seeing my mom, but I'm not an educator. And so asking me, all I can tell you is, I have a lot of people asking for these schools or this school or that or whatever the case is, but I'm not the person to ask for. So pointing them to websites like Great Schools or other things, or just asking their friends.
Yeah.
So that's what I.
No, that's great. No, that's really good. And when I think about school zones, it's kind of like a funnel, right? You have more elementary schools than you have middle schools. You have more middle schools than you have high schools.
Yes.
Okay. And I'm going to spend a little time here on West Monroe because, it fits the conversation, not because I'm saying it's better than something else, okay? West Monroe is what you call a feeder school. A feeder school is when you have, multiple middle schools that all feed into one high school, right? And this impacts value. And it does because if you think about the zones, like all these elementaries, all these middle schools, all feed into one high school, that creates a level of confidence that, hey, regardless of where I live in this region, the kids are going to go all to the same high school.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so that helps sustain value because of that. And you don't have that risk of the zone might change from a high school standpoint.
And in the parish, those zones are much larger. So, West Monroe High School zone's fairly large. West Ouachita, fairly large.
The largest, yeah.
Sterlington, Ouachita, Richwood. Those are large areas, and so yes, to your point, that is very beneficial to homeowners because they know they can almost consistently say, "Hey, this is part of the property value."
Yeah, all those resources all funnel into one high school. All those kids, those teachers, all live and work in that area, all funnel into that one high school, and so that has served West Monroe High School. I mean, the West Monroe area well to have a feeder school, in my opinion. It's been really beneficial, regardless of what elementary school you know that it's going to feed into West Monroe High School.
Sure. And similarly in Monroe City, you've got Carroll and Wassman and Neville. Did I miss one?
In Monroe City? No, I don't think you did.
And so, population-wise, those are large areas, and people can determine, hey, I don't have to just live on this few sets of streets to go, and so it does affect value and continued value. One of the things that we're buying into when we buy into a property is we hope that it is worth more tomorrow than what it is today. And if you can rest assured that this one piece, this one slice, this one thing about this property and it being schools is not going to be different tomorrow, then that's just one thing you don't have to worry about as far as
No, that's a great point. The value of real estate is the real part, R-E-A-L, real, meaning it doesn't change, like it just is.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that's insanely unique about real estate in comparison to anything else you might buy. Now, obviously, school zones can change, regardless of, all the belief that we have about something. Yeah, they certainly can. But again, going back to the high school, to have a feeder type system into one high school, I think has been really beneficial for West Monroe, and particularly thinking about them.
I don't know. Since we've added high schools along the way in my lifetime, but those high school zones typically don't change very often. They do move around elementary school kids occasionally, maybe in middle school, but the high school, it's pretty strong in our area.
Yeah.
Anyway, so.
Well, I've seen an advantage from a buying standpoint from homeschoolers.
Okay.
Because they haven't been, I've got to live in this particular area, and it limits the amount of homes that are available to consider.
Sure.
Right. So there's an advantage to not needing to worry about school zone from having more homes available.
Private school, homeschool, or you don't have kids and you don't have to worry about.
Almost there.
Yeah, you and I both. So I lived at a house where I literally across the street went to a different school.
Yeah.
If I was in a different situation, I possibly could get a home at same quality at a different value because of the school zone. So it is one thing that is an appraiser may consider when they look when they start doing comparables, pulling comparables. They will typically, or in my experience, they will try to pull from the same school zone so that they're comparing apples to apples. And so it is something that even if you don't have a kid in school, if it's not something that you're considering, you should at least be acknowledged. You should at least understand.
You want to think about it because, one day you're going to sell, whether you think it's your forever home or not. Like one day that's
it
going
may
to
be
happen.
your kids that sell it for you, but it's going to be sold.
And the desire there is to maximize the amount of money that you would receive from the sale. And just because other buyers are taking very seriously what school zone it is, you do have to think through that.
Yeah, and I don't want anybody to mishear what Justin and I are saying. We're not saying don't buy a home because of where it's at
Mhm.
in what school zone. We're saying that be aware of it.
Yep.
And so when you do go to sell this home, you can be a knowledgeable
I'm
seller.
gonna give you an example. Rocky Branch is a great area, fantastic area.
We have several friends that live there.
Several friends that live there, and it's beautiful. If you ever can, you know, there's a highway just blowing through it, but if you ever can get off the highway and walk around, it's got beautiful pine.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it's just right there up against the reserve. It's wonderful. School zone has been an issue. They used to be a school.
My mama taught there.
Your mama taught there. Very cool.
Yeah, she taught 7th and 8th grade.
Yeah.
So,
It's not there anymore.
no, the building is.
Well, the building, yeah. The building is, but that has greatly affected, in my opinion, just from my observation, and maybe I'm wrong, I'm willing to be wrong, but it's impacted Rocky Branch from being what it probably could be, and it still sells well, don't get me wrong.
Sure.
But man, it probably could just knock it out of the park if school zones were not a big consideration for people when they were buying, but it is.
Yeah, and this just goes back to economics in our communities. There's so much going on. Schools have had to cut back so much, and it's going to continue to be that way for the foreseeable future. So I don't think there's any talks of them adding a school in Rocky Branch.
Not enough. It's a population issue. You have the reserve to the left. You have the Ouachita River to the right. You have West Monroe or Ouachita Parish to the south. And so there's a very finite amount of land that.
And the one road that connects them to Downsville is flooded half the year.
So you can't. Yeah. So I mean, it's a geographical issue.
Yes.
It's more than anything. But again, I point that out just because of that impact. And so you do see, just thinking through the list of people I know that live there, homeschool or don't have kids.
Yes.
Yeah, just, and that doesn't mean that describes the whole demographics, but my point is it's an amazing area, and school zone has impacted that area.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. Do you want to tell us about a situation that came up in Sterlington?
Oh yeah, we do want to talk about that. So I'm going to be careful with the details here, but still serve the conversation. So if you think about Highway 165, right, and you're headed north towards Sterlington, you have it used to be called it's Lumen, but the subdivision on the left, I think it was called CenturyLink Villa at one time or something like that. I guess it still has that name, even though they've changed to Lumen, but
Yeah, they need to rethink that.
yeah, Lumen Villa. And this particular subdivision was built basically to have a work-life balance and
Yes.
mix and, this whole thing. Pre-COVID, right? So the thought process is, hey, you're going to go into the office, quite a bit. But either way, that's what was happening. And the people that were buying there were sending their kids to Sterlington. That's
Absolutely.
just like, when I say sending the kids to Sterlington, I mean the Sterlington school bus
Right.
went through the neighborhood.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, somebody brought some awareness that that's what was happening. But if you live there, you don't pay taxes to Ouachita Parish. From a property tax standpoint, you pay taxes to the city of Monroe.
Yep.
Which is one of the ways you know what school zone you're supposed to be
That's how
in.
schools are funded. Yes.
Yeah, and so all of a sudden, it changed. And it didn't actually change on the map or in the list of streets in the Monroe City. That in that sense, like, the awareness created it. And then I can't speak for the whole neighborhood because I don't know every detail.
Yeah.
But now there are people who are considering buying there, who thought they were going to be going to Sterlington, are now going to Monroe City Schools.
I mean, it's a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And like I advise my clients, I don't know if that's good or bad. I'm just saying it's different.
It's different because your whole, like, they may have once lived in, clearly a Sterlington school zone, their kids and their, church life and their community activities, their sports, like,
That's a
that stuff
big
gets
deal.
all intertwined, right? It gets woven together into a community, and where you live, impacts how you get to interact with that community.
Absolutely. And so we've yet to see exactly how that's going to impact that particular subdivision.
Yeah.
But it most likely will have an impact.
There are lots of people who are buying a house today in the month of August because of where they want their child to attend school.
Yeah.
And so you've got to do the due diligence, which goes back to our inspection period conversation we had previously. Part of the inspection period is for you to discover what school zone that this home is going to place you in. And that's on the onus is on the buyer.
Yes. And I love my fellow real estate agents. Love you all if you're watching. But we make mistakes.
Yeah.
And sometimes those are critical. And just because a listing says a particular school doesn't make it true.
Yep.
And I will use one example. We have a mutual friend that lives on the border West Monroe Calhoun area, and his house is listed in Ouachita Parish as going elementary school wise going to Drew.
Got it.
But his middle school and high school is Calhoun Middle and West Ouachita.
Makes no sense, but I got it.
It makes zero sense. I called the guy who is over he's like, yeah, if they want to go to Central,
right, because it feeds into the middle.
option. He just said the bus just won't come by, but they would have let them go to Central. But it's a significant thing.
Yeah.
So on the paperwork originally to the house, it was listed as Drew, Westridge, West Monroe.
You know why? There's
Yeah.
There's more buyers.
There's
buying
more
that.
buyers in that area, but if you just looked it up and said, "Oh, that's Drew," you would have assumed that would be the progression. Because most kids that go to Drew school end up going to Westridge and then West Monroe.
I probably would have stopped at the elementary school. I mean,
Yes.
I'd be like, "Oh yeah, Drew. Oh, we're good."
But that was not the case, and so I listed the home,
Okay.
and instead of putting Drew, I put Central.
Smart. I actually think that's
And
smart.
so it wasn't actually true, and I did it on purpose, and so y'all can find me. Sorry.
It could be true.
It could be true, and I was given permission, like they could go to Central. But I wanted to make sure that whoever bought the home saw that this ends up at West Ouachita.
It's where it was going to end up, not where it was going to start.
Right.
I think that really served, because otherwise you would have to backtrack on so many conversations of, well, true but not. And there are a lot of areas like that. New Chapel Hill Road, if you last looked at the map, because maybe they've changed it, but last looked at the map, one side, the west side is West Ouachita.
Yeah.
The east side has the option for West Monroe, but you can still go to West Ouachita.
Okay.
But it's one of those streets where it's so far out there that it's kind of in no man's land in terms of like closeness, so to speak. And I imagine the busing stuff is a part of that. I haven't looked that deeply into it. If you're on Shinny Drew exit, south of the interstate, has some streets that are similar. They have the option to either one.
Yeah, you would normally think of that area as going to West Ouachita, but there are those first few roads that are zoned for
because of
West
the interstate, it's actually, to me, I think it's probably faster to get to West Monroe High School because of the interstate. But yeah, so that kind of the whole point of this conversation is that, location matters when you're buying a home, matters in real estate. That particular location of the home has an impact on the school zone, and there's still some gray areas, so you want to make sure you and your realtor are doing the due diligence, particularly in your inspection period, to make sure that the home feeds into the school zone that you want your children to attend, not only today, but if they're in elementary, eventually in middle school, and in the high school.
That's true. And in the top 5 today, Justin, we're going to see 4 different school zones.
Oh, but let's call them out.
Yeah. No, we're definitely going to call them out. And just to the point is, there's different value homes in every school zone. And so,
Excellent.
I don't want anyone to sit here and hear us saying that if this school zone has low value, that's not what we're
Who
saying.
are we to say what school zone has the better
Exactly,
impact?
and that's my whole point.
Oh.
I'm not an educator, and
Yeah.
I'm not in that realm. I'm not talking about that. There are different value homes in
Yeah.
every school zone.
Yeah.
And so, we're going to get to see the top 5 of them today.
Let's get it. Let's get to
All
the
right,
top
let's
5.
do it. All right, top 5 residential sales in Ouachita, not Ouachita,
Yeah, bud.
in Northeast Louisiana.
Neela.
We sold 70 homes last week.
That sounds like a lot.
That's double what it's been, almost double. So we've been in the 40 range.
I'm not going to lie to you. I felt it.
Yeah, no, it was great.
Yeah, I think we closed in the last, I'll do the last 2 weeks. In the last 2 weeks, we closed 15. So it was a busy 2 weeks.
Look, I closed 2, so it was a good
Contributed.
Good time. So yeah. All right, number 5, $490,000. It is 3012 Hunt Place.
Whoa, we're almost at $500,000 on number 5.
Yes, so all of these are within about a $30,000 range, from number 5 to number 1.
Oh, okay. Well, that gives a lot away, but still, man, that is incredible.
Sorry.
490,000 are number 5 on Hunt Place.
Yes,
That's
it's off of Deborah.
off of Deborah. That's in Monroe City Schools. So what schools we got?
This would be, yes, Lexington, Neville Junior, Neville High School.
Yeah, good job.
And so this particular school zone is represented twice
Yeah,
on there. So
nice.
yeah, so 3,400 square foot home.
Who is our agent?
Our agent was Barbara Thomas.
Ooh, man, rock star.
With John Ray Realty. So yes, Barbara has been in this top 5 before and will be again.
Yeah, I think we talk about her quite
Yes,
a bit. So
we love Barbara. All right, so that's number 5. Number 4 at $500,000.
even.
500 even.
Like
and
it.
that's what that was listed at, and that's what it sold for. William Harris Road.
West Ouachita.
That is West Ouachita, so it'd be Central Calhoun. So Calhoun actually has 2 elementary schools. So
Not
they
far
go,
from one another.
No, they're not. They go like K through 2 or
Yeah.
3, and then
It's like an upper and a lower.
correct. So Central and I think it's Central and Calhoun, and then Calhoun Middle, and then West Ouachita.
Good. I'm thoroughly confused. Thanks, James.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. That is why opsb.net
Yeah.
will answer all of your questions
Very good.
in regards to that. So 8.75 acres, so 8
Ooh.
3/4 acres, 3,100 square feet. They got exactly what they were asking for, built in 2016, $160 a foot.
Man.
So nice home, and it's a nice area. If you've never been on William Harris Road,
Yeah.
take a drive. There
Yeah.
are nice subdivisions that have been built. There's nice acreage.
It is worth the drive to just drive through there, Carrie Nelson, a couple other streets.
Oh, and the really nice home at the end of it that's listed for a few million. So
It's huge.
it is massive. It's the castle. All right, number 3, new construction home off of 165, 508,500. Oh, wait.
That's fine.
Mickey Freeman.
Oh, yeah, Mickey Freeman on William Harris Road. Good job, Mickey.
Yes, Mickey. Sorry about that, Mickey. Vanguard. And she's been in the top 5 before, too.
Yeah.
All right, so this agent is Frank Smith in our office at Coldwell Banker. New construction home, 165. It was listed at 517, but sold for 508,500.
No, that's not. That's really close to the list price.
Yes, $190 a foot.
Jamie, let's sell.
Hey.
Wow.
I mean, you can, but
And
what you gonna buy?
Yeah, that's the problem. What street was this home?
This was on St. Charles Circle, so past Lumen, on the left, like past OCS. There's a few roads. St. Charles Circle is one of those.
Yeah, so this is going to be Sterlington School Zone?
This is Sterlington School Zone. So Sterlington Elementary, Sterlington Middle, Sterlington High School.
Great neighborhood. You've got the boundary of a railroad track and the highway. You've got a boundary of some low-lying land. So it's not going to get built up around it anytime soon. But it's single entry with some gating, but I wouldn't say it's truly gated, but with some gating. but it is, it's secluded in the sense that it's off the
And
road,
it
but
has
it's
some
great convenience.
established homes, and then like this, there's still a few spaces to build in there. So
Yeah.
that's a really nice home.
I like it. Good job, Frank.
Yes. All right. Number 2 at $515,000.
Man, these are a tight range. Goodness
Yes.
gracious.
So this one though was listed at $479 and got $515,000.
Wow.
There could be a reason they might have bought the extra acreage.
So it may have,
But we don't
maybe it
know.
did get bid up. Maybe they added to the
But
listing.
we won't know for a couple of weeks when it gets put into the tax assessor if that was the case. But this is on Line Road
Ooh,
in
Line?
Line, Line,
out there near Luna.
Actually, yes, it's off of 557.
Yeah, I'm curious about the school zone here.
So this is Woodlawn, West Ouachita.
So it's really close to, is it Pioneer Elementary?
Yeah.
I'm not going to remember all of a sudden.
Pinecrest.
Pinecrest Elementary. There we
Yes.
go.
It is really close to Pinecrest, but it's
Double
listed-
check that school zone.
I would definitely double check that school zone, especially for the elementary school. I'm almost positive that Woodlawn
Yeah.
is correct, and West
Yeah.
Ouachita is definitely
I think
correct.
it is too.
But this home has a separate pool house, like the 15 acres,
Mhm.
and it had an additional 5 acres that was available, so that price difference could have been.
May have been that. And
Yeah.
who was our agent on this one?
Craig Morris.
Craig.
Coldwell
Way to
Baker.
go, Craig.
I love Craig. He is extremely nice.
Did you know he's a drummer?
What? He looks
like
like
a
he would
legit
be.
drummer.
Like,
Not like
really,
me on the cajon and subbing in at church. I mean, like
like gets after it.
gets after. Yeah.
Well, he
Sure
just-
enough.
Hey, Craig, if you ever see this, grow your hair out, and then you would really look like a drummer.
It was funny last night. I was like, I think we were talking about who our daughter would date, kind of thing. I was like, as long as it's not a drummer, I'm good.
Well, if your daughter brought Craig home, it'd be all right. He's
He's a good guy. All right, we'll let Craig slide.
Yeah. So, all right, number 1.
Uh-huh.
Look, I've
Speaking
missed
of drums.
it. Drums. Been 3 weeks since I've heard these. Yes.
And the horns.
I like it. All right. This is Briarfield Drive coming in at $522,000.
Man.
This is Forsyth,
Yeah, this-
Loop, and
This
Lammy.
is the
kinda
Monroe
make-
Briarfield. Yeah.
Yes. So in between, Loop Drive is up here close to the
What are you doing with your hands?
bayou. I'm making the roads.
I didn't know you were doing
Cover my
karate
face.
or.
No,
Tempting?
I don't want anybody to see my face.
Okay.
So Forsyth, Loop, and Lammy Lane, and it's right there in the middle. This is
Got
where
it.
Briarfield is. But it was listed at $499 and sold for $522.
Wow.
And I
That
can't.
did not come with extra land.
Did not come with extra land. Came with a lot of bathrooms though, 4.5 baths.
Hey, look, there are parts of the United States where they don't do price per heated square feet.
No,
They do price per room.
yeah. No.
That price
Well,
per bathroom's pretty
if-
good there.
If you ever look on an appraisal,
Yeah.
there is a blank for how many rooms.
Yeah,
It's bedrooms, bathrooms, and total number of rooms.
yeah, no, it's smart.
Some of our appraisers don't get those right, but that's because we don't.
Well,
we
some
don't-
of us were trained to put 0.5, not 0.1 or 0.2.
Yeah, so that's
It was
fine.
a time.
Anyway, $160 a foot, 3,200 square foot house, pool, a hot tub.
All the stuff.
It's a North Monroe home, but this also, like number 5, is in the Sally Humble Lexington
Yeah.
Elementary School, Neville Junior, and Neville.
Well, that
High
decides
School.
it. The best school zone's Neville.
This week it was, yes. Neville, obviously something that people want, historic in our area. People like it. But there's a lot, like this is 522.
Mhm.
There are homes that are way below that,
Yeah.
like way lower than that in that school zone.
They still feed.
Yeah, so
Well, look,
it's not.
here's the thing. We need to realize that our schools, our teachers have done an excellent job having a positive impact on our real estate.
Absolutely.
We have great school zones, we have great teachers, we have great administrations that I have honestly not worried that much about. I know it is a concern for some people, but it's just, I know my kids are going to school. I know they're getting a good education. I generally feel that they're safe, and I really, really appreciate what our teachers and school administrations have done to, to impact not only our kids, but to impact our real estate values. I have confidence that 5 years from now where I live, that somebody's going to want my house because they're going to want to be in these school zones.
Sure. No, that's great logic, and it's based on the truth.
Yeah.
And so thank you, educators, for all you do. And I'm sorry you have to go back to work.
Yep,
But-
you do. But we need you. Get back so we can send our kids to you.
Yeah. My kids are not looking forward to that. Well, my one kid that's still in school is not looking forward to that, but I like her being home, so I'm cool if she wants to stay home. So.
My oldest didn't get the school zone memo. She's moving to Hammond, Louisiana. That's completely out of the zone.
That is out of the zone. And my oldest is moving to Ruston, so
Yeah. Well, at least she's near enough to come have dinner. So.
I don't know if she will.
Well, James, great job this week. Thank you for all
It's good to be
your
back.
contributions.
No,
Pair in the top
glad
5.
you let me do this.
Let them. I need them. Goodness gracious. All right, guys. Well, this has been another episode of Local Wisdom. I'm Justin Underwood, your marvelous mortgage guy. If you need any questions answered or related to a mortgage, or if you're looking for a mortgage for a refinance or a purchase, feel free to give me a call. Love to help. James Douglas, Realtor Extraordinaire,
Okay.
for the most part. Anyways,
Yeah.
I'm overselling. He's a realtor and he likes people.
I do love people, and I like real estate, and I would love to help you.
Yeah.
So
Give him a call. He'll take care of you.
Yeah.
Anyways, we'll be back, Lord willing, next Tuesday, 7:45 a.m. Be sure to join us here on Facebook Live. And, leave us any questions, and we'd be happy to answer them. Thanks.
have a good one.
Have a marvelous day.